So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today. Today I'm joined with Dr. Christopher Bernier, Superintendent of Duval County Public Schools, and Adair Newman, one of our Chief Assistants at the State Attorney's Office, to share important information on recent threats of school-based violence. Yesterday, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office arrested 3 juveniles for making threats to do harm in area charter schools. I'm sharing this information because I want the public to know how seriously we take any public safety threat in our schools. The 3 juveniles that JSO arrested yesterday are very young, 11, 12, and 13 years old respectively. While we do not relish arresting preteens or young teenagers, the threats made by these juveniles compelled us to act. Sadly, the recent school shooting in Georgia has shown us that even the very young can commit unspeakable acts of violence. Here in Jacksonville, we will not sit on our hands and wait to see if those who make threats act on their words. We will be proactive and we will arrest. We will not wait to see if threatening words will be coupled with violence. Although all 3 arrests were made yesterday, these threats were made electronically at differing times during the new school year. JSO only became aware of these threats very recently. The 11-year-old made a threat to River City Science Academy in a group chat thread on August 22nd, and in these text messages he wrote, "Hello fellow citizens, don't worry, just come to school tomorrow. Just don't come to school tomorrow unless you want 15 pounds of lead added to you at an extremely fast rate." And that is a quote. He was arrested for sending a written threat to conduct a mass shooting, which is a second-degree felony. The 12-year-old made a threat to Idea River Bluff Charter School through Instagram messages sent on September 9th. In these messages, this juvenile said that he would shoot up the school. He was arrested for sending a written threat to conduct a mass shooting, a second-degree felony. The 13-year-old made a threat to Idea Bassett Charter School. This juvenile posted an Instagram story on her account stating, "Don't come to school tomorrow if you want to live." She was arrested for sending a written threat to kill, which is a second-degree felony. Our children are our most precious resource. Students and teachers deserve to feel safe and be safe in our schools. This agency will not, under any circumstance, tolerate victimization of children, even if those committing these crimes are children themselves. JSO will thoroughly investigate every threat of school-based violence. If there's probable cause for an arrest, we will arrest no matter if the perpetrator is 90 years old or 10 years old. It doesn't matter if the threat is made online, in a text chain, on paper, or out loud. I want all Jacksonville citizens to know that we will have zero tolerance for school threats of school shootings. Before we take your questions, the superintendent would like to make a few remarks.
Thanks, Sheriff. And thank you to the Sheriff and the entire JSO department for their help and support. Safety takes everyone in our community. As the Duval County's Public School Superintendent, I want to echo the Sheriff's words that we will not tolerate students or others who make threats against our schools. A threat can never be dismissed as a joke or a prank, and we as a school district will pursue the strongest disciplinary consequences available to us. Besides disciplinary consequences, as the Sheriff said, making a threat can often lead to criminal consequences that you heard today. Yesterday, our school police also made 2 arrests for students who have alleged to have made threats against their school building. If a threat rises to the level of a crime, we will absolutely pursue criminal consequences as well. These consequences are life-changing, but necessary in order to protect the health and safety of all of our employees and all of our students. I want to continue to say that academics is always our primary goal, but students cannot learn if they don't feel safe. Teachers can't teach if they don't feel safe. Parents, we need you to have a difficult conversation with your children. There are certain things you should never say in an airport as you approach security. And similarly, you should never write or state a threat to harm a school, student, or a person in our community. If that happens, this community will use every tool it has to address it. And we'll do everything in our power to ensure that each of our students and faculty members feel safe in our schools. Thank you, Sheriff.
So before I take questions, I do want to say this, and here's the warning. And I don't do this lightly. This is not a light thing for me. You heard the ages of the kids. Do not, under any circumstance, in any school, charter school, online, make a threat to shoot up our schools. We're not going to sit back and allow you to make that threat. We are going to act on it. And that's my promise to this community. Our kids, once again, are our most precious resource. We have to make sure that we keep them safe. So with that, I'll take questions.
Sheriff, actually I have two questions, one for you and one for Dr. Bernier. Sheriff, can you clarify, we know that the threats were made electronically, can you clarify how you were made aware of them, who alerted you? And for Dr. Bernier, you said that your officers arrested 2 students. Are we saying that there's 5 total in addition to the 3 that the sheriff spoke of?
So I'll speak to the 3 that we arrested. I can tell you those threats came through our intelligence unit, learned of those threats, and began the investigative process for those threats. Once we got those threats, once we found out about them, then that's when we took action through after our investigation. Dr. Martin?
From the school system's point of view, yes, we had 2 additional arrests that we wanted to make sure that we made the community aware of based upon our students and the actions of our police department. We can give you more information through Tracy, our
So 5 students total arrested? That's
2, the 3 that the sheriff messaged, and 2 specifically who go to Duval County traditional public schools.
Oh, I see now. Okay, thank you.
I have a question for you, Dr. Bernier. Can you tell us the ages of those students and what school it was?
That information will be available through Tracy Pierce, our Chief of Communications.
Yes, Sheriff.
Yes, sir.
What type of tangible threat after the fact through the investigation was found? Did these students have access to any type of weapons that you're aware of?
There's nothing beyond the threat that I'm telling you about that we'll discuss openly right now. The process is still ongoing. From what I know, no, there was not. But you don't ever want to say definitively that that possibility is not there. But what we can tell you now, that it was not, it was just a threat at this point.
I noticed you said she as one pronoun. Are we talking about 1 girl and 2 boys? Can you clarify that?
Absolutely, one girl, 2 boys.
Since there's total now 5 students involved in making threats against both our charter schools and our public schools, is the sheriff's office maybe working with DCPS to kind of implement some sort of training within the school district to kind of go over with students how serious it is if you make these threats, that it won't be accepted? I know you're asking parents to have conversations with students, but is there any training that you're working to implement?
I'll let Dr. Bernier answer that question.
In our school building, in all of our school buildings, including our charters, we have a code of conduct. The code of conduct is reviewed at the beginning of school. We've also had additional communications as we've worked with Know the Line related to other types of activity that can occur in and around a school building. We've made it a point to specifically address school threats.
But let me add to that. How much training does it take to not send a threat online, Instagram, about shooting up other kids in schools? It doesn't take training. It's pretty much common sense. And I appreciate the code of conducts, but people understand that you're not supposed to do that. We're warning them, letting them know that we're not going to sit back and we're not going to take it. We're going to do something about it because we see what happens around the country and what just happened in Georgia. We don't want it happening in Jacksonville. We don't want it happening in charter schools. We don't want it happening in businesses. We don't want it happening in Duval County Public Schools. We have a great partnership. I'm very familiar with the chief of Duval County Public School Police Department. We're going to work together to make sure we handle these threats.
And can you also talk about something like this can follow you if you do it? Can you speak to that side of it as well, and just to think twice? This can follow you.
Yeah, it absolutely can. But that's where the judicial system comes in, the justice system comes in. And they're young. So hopefully we can get them in a position where, I don't know, I can't speak for them, but hopefully we can get them in a position where they can get some counseling and work on whatever issues they're dealing with. Because you don't necessarily want this to follow young people, but there are consequences to this type of behavior. And with the patterns that we see happening across the country, we got to make sure it just doesn't happen here. We do everything we can to stop it from happening here.
Sheriff, you mentioned some of these happened as early as August, but in your experience, are there oftentimes copycat style shootings or threats that come after major school shootings like we saw in Georgia?
No, I haven't seen that in my experience, but what we have seen is an increase in these types of things going on. I mean, it's like 3 in a row, like back to back. It's kind of strange, but we are paying very close attention. And that's what people should understand. We have social media accounts. We have a bunch of different things that we do to watch and pay attention to what's going on around us, whether it be something like this or other activities.
Sure, quick question just for clarification. You said that the kids were arrested and then you named the charges that they could potentially face. Is the sheriff's office planning to file charges against these kids?
The filing of charges comes from the state attorney. They will make those filing decisions on how that goes. We make the initial arrest, and that arrest is made on second-degree felonies. Then everything from this point moving forward, Ms. Newman she'll request evidence, she'll request information from us, and then the state attorney will make a filing decision.
That has not happened yet, though.
That has not happened yet.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much.